Luke awoke to the gentle hum of a starship's engine, and the pained whispers of an ongoing debate. Ahsoka was arguing with someone, yet the Jedi in training couldn't quite figure out who. Prying himself out of bed, Luke began his haggard journey towards the bridge, only to stop as the fingers of his new prosthetic wrapped around the doorway's frame. He lost his hand in the duel with Vader, that much he recalled, but his memory beyond that point was shoddy at best. At the very least, he knew Ben appeared before him. There was no mistaking that. "I know what I saw," Ahsoka's voice radiated throughout the vessel. "Master Kenobi spoke to him." "I'm not denying that," Galen fired back, "but it doesn't matter. Right now, the Alliance needs us. We can't go gallivanting across the galaxy based off the whims of a ghost. If we ignore this, we'd be ignoring the will of the Force." The Togruta's calm demeanor started to crack. She'd been at this for a while, and her anger was growing. "So what?" the Jedi asked, letting his question hang in the air. Before the argument could escalate, Luke shakily took a seat on the bridge beside his master, ushering in an abrupt silence. "Master Yoda is on Dagobah," the young man added, drained of any emotion. That name meant nothing to Galen. To him, it was but another Jedi that refused to fight. This could not be said for Ahsoka, however. As her eyes widened upon hearing it. "Are you certain you heard Master Yoda?" the Togruta inquired. "Yeah," Luke affirmed. "Apparently he can finish my training." That comment made Galen scoff, prompting a scornful look from Ahsoka. "What?" the man shot off. "There a problem, Marek?" she probed, as if looking for a fight. Before the argument could flare up again, the control panel aboard Ahsoka's vessel began to flash. Someone was hailing the ship. Forcing himself between the pair of Jedi, Luke let the transmission through. "Galen, is that you?" Ziel's voice called out through the receiver. The Jedi let out a sigh. "It is," he replied simply, frustration venting with each word. "Is Anakin with you?" the girl asked in a panic. "He's safe. He rendezvoused with General Kota and the Resolute." The rogue shadow slowly approached Ahsoka's ship as it continued to gently drift amidst the endless void of space. Ziel let out a deep sigh, as if she'd been holding it in since Hoth, and relaxed all her muscles at once. I'm sorry, Galen," the Quarren began. "I'm gonna go lie down. Feel real tired all of a sudden." "Don't worry about it," he expressed. "Have Proxy set course for Dagobah, and then get some rest." There was a pause, followed by a question from Ziel. "Dagobah? Why are we going there?" "It's the will of the Force," Galen mocked, openly betraying his disdain. Their destination set, the pair of ships ventured through hyperspace together in relative silence. The duel against Vader had put Galen on edge. His patience was thin on account of following a ghost's directive. He felt something coming, but couldn't quite figure out what. Touching down upon the world's planetary swamp, the small group of Jedi came face to face with a creature that was seemingly expecting them. Clad in tattered robes and grasping a decaying branch as a cane, the haggard old alien smiled as his eyes met that of a former student. "Good it is to see you, Ahsoka." "And you, Master Yoda." The Togruta knelt down to the ground, hugged the aging Jedi as one would with a grandparent. "I'm sorry I left," she uttered, faintly. "Need for apologies, there is not. Left you, we did." As Ahsoka rose to her feet, Luke and Ziel approached the old master, unsure as to what they should do. "Time for rest it is. Long your journey has been," Yoda declared, motioning the others toward his humble abode. Silently, Galen kept his distance from everyone else, and looked toward the darkening wood of Dagobah. Something was calling to the Jedi, beckoning him forward, yet the presence wasn't wholly welcoming. There was a darkness to it, a feeling otherwise unresolved that compelled the weathered commander to stay away. As odd as it sounded, the sensation was one Galen had encountered before. On Ilum perhaps, he thought to himself, or possibly even the Death Star. "Galen!" Ziel shouted, rattling the Jedi out of his stupor. "Are you coming?" The Quarren was the only one still outside. She was waiting on her teacher, but could sense something was amiss. A period of silence then befell the pair, as Galen looked to his student like a father would his child. "Galen?" the girl questioned, worried. "You're almost 15, aren't you?" the Jedi asked, seemingly out of the blue. Ziel gave him a quizzical look. "Yeah, in another month." A sharp wind blew through the pair, cold and impatient. The presence on Dagobah would not go ignored. It demanded Galen's attention, but it would not have it. At least, not have it quite yet. Nearly 5 years. I can't believe it's been that long. There was levity to the Jedi's words, a looming sense of closure just out of reach. Luke crept out of Yoda's dwelling and rose to his feet just outside its entrance. His teacher was lost in conversation with a former mentor of hers. He felt out of place. "You want to know something?" Ziel uttered, feeling something come over her as well. "I can't remember my dad's face, let alone my mom's. I have more memories of you than of them." Galen remained silent and acknowledged Luke's presence with a nod. The young man could stay. After all, that which was being said bore relevance to him as well. "When I think of my dad," the Quarren trailed off, her message unfinished, yet received all the same. Once more, Dagobah's howling wind blew through the pair. The Jedi didn't have much time left. "Can you live with that?" Galen asked, the muddy ground beneath his feet slowly giving way. "I think so," she affirmed. "You may be young, but make no mistake. You are a Jedi." The man shifted his weathered gaze toward the sounds emanating from Yoda's hut. "More so than any of us here." With Dagobah's malicious presence still beckoning him forward, Galen set off upon his lonesome journey, only to stop at the darkening wood's edge. "You felt the same thing as me. Don't shy away from it," the Jedi called out to Luke. "You know who he is." Letting his words hang in the air, Galen crossed the threshold into Dagobah's ravenous swamp and swiftly fell from view. The planet's vicious wildlife kept its distance from Vader's former apprentice, for they could sense the dormant darkness that still laid within him. Destiny was pushing the galaxy toward a final confrontation, a point of no return that would change everything forever. And Galen knew it. Feeling a dull heat radiate off his lightsaber, the Jedi unhooked his weapon and activated its azure blade. Upon doing so, the dark wood of Dagobah gave way to his sun's brilliant light, illuminating the near city-like forest of Kashyyyk. The planet was under siege, a fleet of Star Destroyers blocking out the sky, with a duel between Force users unfolding just beyond the horizon. Pushing himself forward, Galen ran toward the pair of combatants, but began to slow down as hands beneath his feet, scarred and decayed, took hold of him. One did little to deter the Jedi from his path, but as he trudged on, the ever-growing horde's strength proved to be too much. They stopped Galen in his tracks, and before long, began to drag him down into their frigid depths. Seeing the flash of a red and blue lightsaber both slowly dip out of view, the Jedi began to panic. His goal now seemed so very far out of reach, unobtainable. He was sinking, falling into the depths of Dagobah's black-watered swamp. With his chest now entombed in the mud's crushing pressure, Galen realized if he did nothing, continued as he was, only death awaited him. Plunging his blade into the ground, the Jedi began to hack and cleave, struggle and claw his way out of the mess he found himself in. His feet nearly free, the ground beneath Galen gave way entirely as a void opened up to swallow him whole. Unable to take hold of anything, the Jedi fell into darkness, the blade of his weapon only offering a single sliver of light. In the blink of an eye, Galen found himself lying upon the floor of a familiar temple. He was on Raxus Prime, with the crazed Kazdan Paratus staring him down. In hushed whispers, the Jedi Master began muttering to himself. Though Vader's former apprentice tried speaking with him, the Alina couldn't be reasoned with. His mind was far too broken. A duel broke out, and after coming as far as he had, ended in a flash, with Galen slaying his opponent. Unlike in his youth, feelings of self-hatred, guilt, lingered upon the Jedi's mind as he stared at his opponent's corpse. Killing Paratus was a mistake, one he'd have to bear the weight of for the rest of his life. Turning around, Galen suddenly, and rather abruptly, came face to face with Shaak Ti. Remaining still, Galen thought back to that moment from so long ago, to his fated battle with Shaak Ti. Though she had been defeated, the Togruta decided to take her own life instead of meeting her end at the hands of an assassin. Despite being a memory he tried to keep buried, the Jedi always wondered why she did that. With the Sarlacc at her back, and the vibrant flora of Felucia surrounding her, the Jedi Master began beckoning to Vader's former apprentice. "There's a difference, you know," she uttered, "between death and a sacrifice. A stumble and a fall." Galen couldn't quite bring himself to look the woman in the eye. He was too ashamed. "How's Maris?" Shaak Ti asked, referring to her former Padawan. His gaze fixed on the ground, Galen let out a staggered breath. "Alive," he confided. "She's with the Alliance." "But not the Jedi," the Master added, much to Galen's growing silence. The Togruta grabbed the jaw of Vader's former apprentice, forcing his gaze to meet hers. "The Jedi are more than an order. They're an idea," the woman uttered, her voice stern, her words concise. "We lost sight of that. You helped us remember." Shaak Ti let go of Galen and began to back away, the blackened wood of Dagobah returning with each step she took. With no time to reflect, Galen heard a lightsaber ignite behind him and quickly readied himself to meet it. Vader's dark visage bared down upon him, and though the Jedi knew it wasn't real, he couldn't help but attack the figure with reckless abandon. The exchange of blows was brief, vicious, but filled with passion all the same. Running his azure blade against his assailant's helmet, Galen felled his foe, but found no solace in doing so. As if compelled, the Jedi reached down and pulled the broken section of helmet off his opponent's head. What followed was a sight which left Galen shaken. Where he had thought he'd see the face of Anakin, or perhaps even his own, was instead that of his father, Galen Marek. Forcing himself to stand, the Jedi tried to calm his nerves, but to no avail. He knew full well the intent of the apparition's message, but refused to acknowledge it. With the hum of his saber still echoing throughout Dagobah's swamp, Galen began wailing upon the corpse, trying his best to rid himself of it. With each strike, the crystal of the Jedi's saber, the one which once belonged to his father, began to fracture and crack. The blade was becoming unstable, and by the time Galen realized this fact, it was too late. Instead of exploding like it should have, the man's weapon gradually faded into dust upon each successive swing until there was nothing left. The realization which Galen came upon, that which fueled his anger, what he refused to acknowledge, was something most people would pay no mind. He understood within the depths of his heart who his father truly was. And it wasn't Kento. Despite the torturous upbringing, the fact he ripped him from his family, the constant betrayal, Galen saw Vader as his father, and it sickened him. His feelings for him had always been complicated, strong, and now he understood why. "Can you live with that?" An approaching voice echoed, mirroring words the Jedi had uttered. "No," Galen stated flatly. Shimmering a faint shade of blue, a ghost stood tall before the Jedi and extended its hand out toward him. "Then we understand each other," it declared, hand still outstretched, waiting to be grasped. Galen couldn't make heads or tails of the entity before him. He couldn't determine if it was a man or a woman, friendly or malicious. Yet, in spite of all that, and against his better judgment, the Jedi reached out and took hold of the ghost. Upon doing so, the pair found themselves at the heart of an altar, or perhaps a meditation chamber, surrounded by massive claw-like protrusions. Their location was steeped in the dark side and felt unnatural, wrong, as if the place they stood existed at the edge of life and death, reality and oblivion. "Where are we?" Galen finally asked. "An old academy," the ghost explained. At least, the echo of one long since past. During his years at war, the Jedi had become accustomed with the living force and its soothing warmth. This academy, as it was put, embodied that sensation's polar opposite. It wasn't just cold, but barren, devoid of both life and that which binds it together. Flipping back its hood, the ghost revealed itself to be a man, scarred and wary. Though Galen had never seen him before, he felt familiar, as if he was reuniting with an old comrade. "You should be dead," he directed at Galen. "But you already know this." The Jedi's mind wandered to that day aboard the Death Star. He expected to die, prepared himself for it, yet it never came. When facing down the Emperor, he felt different, at peace. Galen had believed this was due to him accepting his fate, but now he wondered if that was truly the case. "Did you help me?" the Jedi questioned, staring intently at the ghost. "Just assisted in clearing your mind. Nothing more," he alluded. "Why?" Galen fired off, annoyed by the vague answer. "Because we're alike," the entity began. "We both know what it means to be Sith. We both have brought the Order to its knees and have pressed our heel against the galaxy's throat." There was silence as Galen prepared himself for a fight, much to the ghost's amusement. "We also know what it means to be a Jedi. A true Jedi." Galen relaxed upon hearing that statement, choosing to hear the being before him out without jumping to any hasty conclusions. "Who are you?" the Jedi asked, his apprehension apparent. "Most forgot my name while I was alive, and I'm afraid the memory of time has been just as kind." The entity removed the last vestiges of its outer robe and unveiled a set of armor from an age now passed into myth. "My title, however," he voiced, "my title is one a few still recall." Before he finished, the ghost stopped and raised its arms toward the altar ceiling. "I hate destiny, prophecy, fate," the entity declared, now pointing at the Jedi. "It's why I saved you, Galen Marek. I wish to see these forces undone." The Jedi couldn't believe what he was hearing. He didn't know what to think, let alone how to respond. Before silence could overtake the pair, however, the ghost started up again. "My teacher once attempted to do the same, but failed, or perhaps didn't care to grasp the repercussions of her actions. I will not make the same mistake." The ground beneath Galen's feet began to rattle and shake. Bracing himself, the Jedi watched as the altar's red core began to rise. "My teacher used to believe that there must always be a Darth Traya, the one that holds the knowledge of betrayal. The entity's chilling words echoed throughout the chamber. She understood the power of titles. From the altar's core emerged an ancient artifact wrapped in cloth. She understood the power of symbols. The entity's voice carried across the chamber's vast expanse. Placing a hand upon the artifact's wrapping, the Jedi tugged but a single thread which unraveled everything. Not knowing the significance, but understanding its weight all the same, Galen peered into the visor of a scorched Mandalorian mask. Every age must have a Darth Revan, the one that holds the knowledge of change, who has changed their life and will change life in turn. His statement was neither loud nor grandiose, yet important all the same. Resting in Galen's hands, the mask began crumbling into dust until but a single, crystal-like shard remained. Every road you choose from here on out will lead to your death, Revan explained, the altar and its surroundings giving way to a black void. Everything you've done, every life you've saved will be for nothing. They'll meet their end before this is over, and the galaxy's fate will unfold as it was meant to. From the void, a duel between a Jedi and a Sith, a father and a son, played out before Galen. Though everything up until recently had been a creation of the Force, he knew one thing for certain. The display before him was a real one, and there wasn't a thing he could do to intervene. "That's Luke!" the Jedi shouted. "He's fighting Vader, alone! Where's Ahsoka? Why isn't she there?" Galen looked to Revan for answers, only for the old ghost to remain silent. He then watched helplessly as the pair fought across the length of a long catwalk. Luke was losing, despite Ahsoka's training, and was finally bested as Vader landed a well-aimed strike which destroyed the young man's lightsaber. Yet, in this moment of despair, as Vader revealed he was the young man's father, Luke shocked the wary Jedi Knight by uttering but a single phrase: "I know," before trusting in the Force and taking a plunge into the pit below him. "That was always going to happen," Revan added, the vision giving way to black. "Though I'll admit, that was far more different than expected. Seems he was prepared for the inevitable." The blackened miasma, the still silence of the expanse which surrounded the pair, ceased to be as the sights and sounds of Dagobah returned to envelop everything. Long ago, I was faced with a choice I believed would alter the course of the galaxy. Only in death, upon becoming one with the Force, did I realize this was merely an illusion. As the entity spoke, the malicious sense which drew Galen to the swamp grew weaker. I decided to stand with the Republic, be its savior instead of crushing it beneath my boot as a conqueror. It didn't matter. The end result would have always been the same. I would die, and the strings of destiny would continue to puppet the galaxy. Galen looked down at the crystal still in his hand. Its purple hue pulsated with a searing chill. It emanated the same feeling of lifelessness as that peculiar altar. If you continue as you are, you, your friends, and your students will all die. There's no place for you in the days to come, Revan remarked. You know you can't fight Vader. Kill him because of what he means to you. So don't. Galen closed his fingers around the crystal and tightened his grip into a fist. If he couldn't face Vader, then there was only one path, one foe that still laid before him. He knew what had to be done. Go to the Malachor system, find the source of its living death, and learn that which was thought lost, Revan explained, his form fading back into nothing. It's the only way to end this, to free those cursed by fate, to save their lives. With the old ghost's words echoing against the wind, Galen was once more alone. Stuffing the crystal into his pocket, the Jedi ventured out of the swamp and back to his ship. As he expected, Ahsoka, Ziel, and Luke were all gone, yet the old hermit, Master Yoda, still remained. Throwing aside any pretense of civility, Galen fixed his gaze on the one that chose to remain. "How long?" he curtly asked. "A time," retorted the Master. Proxy, peering out of the Rogue Shadow's doorway, waved the Jedi over. They left for Bespin, the droid informed. "I have already charted the course." "Change it," Galen ordered. "We're heading for Malachor instead." The destination caught Yoda's attention. "Going, are you?" he inquired. Stepping aboard the vessel, the Jedi turned back with a scornful look. "Things have to change. If they don't, a lot of people are going to die," he stated with conviction. "I won't leave them to their fate. I won't do nothing." Finally, as the Rogue Shadow lifted itself out of Dagobah's ravenous swamp, the Jedi Master understood. The man whose heart had been changed time and again fought to alter that which Yoda put his faith in. He cheated death once. He would strive to do so one last time.